From the time I can remember, I had always been surrounded by culture and cultural beings. Growing up in my grandparents' household, I began to associate closely to my grandparents' culture and customs. Both of my grandparents on my father's side were born and raised in a rural part of Cuba called Santiago de Cuba. I was constantly surrounded by the Cuban culture. If it was my grandmother teaching me how to cook everything from scratch, to my grandfather trying his best to teach me how to speak Spanish every time I would visit. Their culture stuck with me, and I wanted to become a part of it each time I would spend my days with my grandparents. In my town in Queens, it is called Whitestone. Everyone in my neighborhood was either Italian or Greek. On my first day of kindergarten, I felt like a fish out of water. I was the only little Spanish tan girl in my class. Having been so young, you would think I would have felt like an outcast, but I did. I was surrounded by these beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde-haired girls, and I knew I wasn't like them. I would ask my mom and dad why I felt so different, and why they weren't tan like me. They would tell me that it doesn't matter what the girls in my class looked like, but the person that I am. Later in the year, I grew to make friends with a group of girls in my class. They accepted me into their play circle, and to me, that meant the world. I never knew that a group of girls I would have met in my kindergarten class would become my best friends for the years to come. As I became closer with them, they introduced me into their own Italian backgrounds. I would go over their house for play dates and was so intrigued by their different language and food customs. I felt as if I belonged, and I began to want to learn more about their Italian culture. In middle school, I was so wrapped up in trying to fit in and adapt to their Italian culture. When I got to my high school, my perception completely did a 180 change. I felt way more comfortable with who I was and my culture. I remember meeting a girl in my freshman year who was Brazilian and was the person to tell me to be happy and embrace my Cuban background. Just from that conversation, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt proud again to be Cuban and proud to be open with my cultural background. My senior year, my life changed. My grandfather, who I grew up with and who taught me everything I know about being a proud Cuban and embracing my culture, passed away suddenly. It was that moment when it opened my eyes to how important it really was to never be ashamed of my culture or try to ever conform to others, just so I wouldn't feel like an outcast. I now see myself as a walking melting pot with many ingredients. I'm half Cuban, 20% Puerto Rican, 20% Spaniard, and 10% German. And of course, I say I'm Italian by association, having been growing up in my neighborhood. I am happy each day for the experience I have been through because it has shaped who I am today and has shaped me into the cultural being that I am so proud of.